Picture this. It's a dramatic sunset in Beijing, Air Force One touches down, and U.S. President Donald Trump steps out to an array of waving American and Chinese flags. Welcome to this explainer. Right now, the entire world is watching this historic, incredibly high-stakes summit between Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Today, we're going to break down exactly what is on the table. Here's a quick rundown of our agenda for today. We'll be covering 1. The stakes in Beijing. 2. Operation Epic Fury. 3. The AI arms race. 4. The trade truce. 5. The Taiwan red line. And 6. A binary market event. Let's get right into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the stakes in Beijing, setting the scene.
This is actually the first state visit to China by a U.S. president in nearly a decade. And right before leaving, President Trump laid it out pretty bluntly. He said, "We're the two superpowers. We're the strongest nation on earth in terms of military. China's considered second." Neither side is pretending this is just some friendly get-together. This is a heavyweight negotiation, and both sides know exactly what kind of military and economic leverage the other holds. To really grasp the sheer economic weight in the room, just look at the U.S. delegation sitting right there behind the president. You've got Elon Musk and Tim Cook physically present at the summit. Oh, and NVIDIA's CEO Jensen Huang, he joined the trip at the literal last minute. Having these massive tech titans in Beijing proves we are not just talking about traditional diplomacy here. We are talking about the absolute future of global supply chains and technology.
Moving to Section 2, Operation Epic Fury. The Iran War.
The crazy thing is, the most immediate crisis hanging over the summit isn't even happening in Asia. It's the ongoing U.S. conflict with Iran. Back in February 2026, the U.S. launched a massive military campaign. After 38 days of major combat operations, Pakistan managed to broker a very fragile ceasefire in April. So now, as this May summit kicks off, we are stuck in an incredibly tense stalemate, with global shipping lanes caught right in the crossfire. To really put the scale of this operation into perspective, the U.S. military conducted over 10,200 air sorties. That is a staggering number. The entire goal was to use overwhelming force to totally dismantle Iranian offensive capabilities, specifically taking out their missile production and naval infrastructure. But every action has a reaction, right? In retaliation, Iran closed the Strait of Hormuz. And why should we care about that? Well, because that one single waterway chokes off 20% of all global seaborne oil. Plus, that includes about half of China's crude imports. Suddenly, Washington desperately needs Beijing to use its immense leverage over Tehran to get that strait reopened, or we are looking at a catastrophic global oil shock.
That brings us to Section 3, the AI arms race, the next industrial revolution.
Remember those tech CEOs we mentioned a minute ago? Well, they're here because we are in the middle of a full-blown technological Cold War. Right now, the U.S. holds about an 8-month lead in AI capabilities, and they absolutely want to keep it that way through strict export controls. China, on the flip side, is aggressively trying to close that gap. They want domestic substitution, fewer restrictions, and total self-reliance. It's basically two massive trains heading in completely opposite directions. And at the very center of this huge tug-of-war is physical hardware. Specifically, we're talking about things like NVIDIA's H200 chip. Beijing is incredibly frustrated by Washington blocking the sale of these super advanced AI processors to China. Because AI is quite literally reshaping the modern economy and the battlefield, getting access to this hardware is a pivotal, must-have bargaining chip at the summit.
Let's look at Section 4, the trade truce, economic whiplash.
Alongside energy and AI, good old-fashioned trade is still a deeply volatile issue. Just back in April, the U.S. pushed cumulative tariff rates on Chinese goods to a staggering 145%. We literally haven't seen tariff rates that high in over a century. China immediately fired back, and the totally predictable result was an absolute stock market crash. But the pain was mutual. Both nations looked over the edge and quickly stepped back from the brink. They slashed their overall tariff rates down to a 10% total reset just to stop the bleeding and calm the markets down. So as they sit across the table right now, they are operating under a very fragile truce. So what can they actually achieve in Beijing? Well, both leaders really need some flashy, headline-grabbing wins to project strength back home. We are probably looking at an official extension of that 10% tariff truce, some massive Chinese purchases of American agricultural goods, a huge 500 aircraft order from Boeing, and the creation of a brand new bilateral board of trade to manage the relationship going forward.
Now for Section 5, the Taiwan Red Line, Strategic Sensitivities.
While trade deals and tech bans look great on camera, Beijing's absolute non-negotiable core security priority is still the self-governing island of Taiwan. In fact, China's foreign minister explicitly warned that this is the single biggest risk in their relationship. Since Trump is hunting for trade victories and really needs help dealing with Iran, there is deep anxiety right now about whether he might soften U.S. support for Taiwan just to get a deal done.
And honestly, that fear really spiked when President Trump delayed a massive $14 billion arms package to Taiwan right before jumping on the plane to Beijing. It is clearly being used as a bargaining chip. But if you ask foreign policy experts, they'll tell you it is highly unlikely the U.S. will actually make any sweeping structural concessions when it comes to Taiwan's defense. It's just too vital to America's strategic position in the Pacific.
Which leads us to our final section, Section 6, a binary market event, two futures.
When you combine all these massive factors, it is no wonder global financial markets are treating this two-day summit as a huge binary event. Policy uncertainty is soaring to 40-year highs. If we get a constructive outcome, meaning they agree to reopen the Strait of Hormuz and extend the trade truce, we'll see stable oil prices, solid supply chains, and inflation cooling down. But if negotiations totally fall apart, we are staring down the barrel of a brutal oil shock testing $120 a barrel, renewed tech tensions, a massive market slump, and inflation completely spiking. It is literally the difference between global economic stability and a recession. So, as we watch the dominoes of this AI race, this volatile trade war, and the Iran conflict fall into place after this historic summit, we really have to ask ourselves, how will this tense equilibrium reshape our world moving forward? Are we looking at a sustainable peace, or is this just a temporary pause on a much larger collision course? Think about how these two superpowers, navigating their own red lines, are going to impact everything from the high-tech smartphone in your pocket to the price of gas you put in your car. Keep all of that in mind as the headlines keep rolling out this week.